This is my new flexible solar panel. The main advantage for me is that it weighs only 5.8 kilograms. So it's easy for me to carry it myself for DIY solar projects. It is rated for 250 watt peak production. You can see that there are built-in connectors on both sides. They are MC4 connectors which can be connected to the solar cable, which in turn will be connected to the solar charge controller, and finally it will go to the battery for charging. Here you can see that I am testing the open circuit voltage of the solar panel. It comes to around 46 volts when it is bright sunlight around 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So this has much higher voltage than the nominal 24 volts. The panel is of 24 volts, but peak voltage is much higher. And when you connect it to a solar charge controller, that should be rated for that peak voltage, and the battery also should be rated correspondingly. When 24 volt panels are used, ideal is to connect 24 volt battery also to the charge controller. If you connect 12 volt battery to the PWM charge controller, which you see here, what happens is that the PWM charge controller senses the battery is 12 volts. You have to connect the battery first to the charge controller and not the panel. That's because it gives time for the charge controller to sense the voltage of the battery and change the settings accordingly. So the PWM charge controller forces the solar panel to work for 12 volts so that there will be some wastage of energy also. Ideal way is to use an MPPT charge controller, which will give the maximum output from the solar panel as far as battery storage is concerned. So these are the importance of checking of open circuit voltage of the solar panel. In this video clip, I am just confirming the voltage using an analog multimeter. Earlier I had checked with my very old digital multimeter. This is a new analog multimeter I have purchased for counter checking the voltages when I am using something critical, because my old digital multimeter is probably more than a decade old. I am not sure how long it has been here with me. So I am not sure whether it will give some errors, but there is no error. The new analog multimeter is also showing the same voltage, 45 volts, with the analog multimeter as well. Please note that this is open circuit voltage. When the battery has been connected to the charge controller and then the solar panel also has been connected to the charge controller, if you check, the voltage will be corresponding to the expected output of the charge controller. When I checked, it was only 13.6 volts as I had connected a 12 volt battery. So after connecting the 12 volt battery, the PWM charge controller sensed it as 12 volt battery, and then the output of the solar panel also was adjusted by the charge controller, so that finally only 13.6 volts was there in all the terminals of the PWM charge controller. I am on the lookout for a 250 watt MPPT charge controller, but there is one problem from my side, that is I am an amateur radio operator. If the charge controller, MPPT charge controller, is not of very good quality, it will produce radio frequency interference in my amateur radio, which is also known as ham radio, and I will not be able to receive weak amateur radio signals. So that's why I'm currently using PWM charge controller, though it is not ideal because there is underutilization of the 250 watt solar panel, which will effectively function only as a 125 watt solar panel.